This is the audience participation part. There'll be another one when we do Q&A, but this part is what would you like tonight? I have a talk or a reading. The talk is about the themes in the book. The reading is a scene from the book. It involves clenching someone's thumb. I won't tell you whose. That's a surprise. So, hands up for the reading. Hands up for the talk. All right, it's going to be what they chose in Portland last night too.
This is not an option.
Not enough time. But the reading is online. I podcasted it, so the reading's online, and it will have fewer mistakes in it than I would have made because all the mistakes have been edited out of the online version. So this is the third night of a 28-day, 22-city tour. Thank you all for coming. If I seem a bit frazzled, it's only because I am. I'm still recovering from my London jet lag. The talk starts with a short history lesson. It starts in February 2010 in Lower Merion, Pennsylvania, which is an affluent suburb of Philadelphia, where a young man named Blake J. Robbins sued his school board. The reason he sued his school district is because he had a rather unpleasant day in the principal's office. And the background to this is that Lower Merion, Pennsylvania has laptop schools where all the students are issued with laptops that they bring to school every day and take home every night. Their assignments have to be done on the laptops, and those are the devices that they're allowed to connect to the school network. And these are not optional laptops. These are the laptops that they have to carry around with them. And Blake J. Robbins had some interactions with his principal. He and his principal didn't get along. There have been some disciplinary rumblings. And one day his principal called him into the office and said, "You know, I've got you now. You've been taking drugs." And he said, "Well, I don't take drugs." And he said, "All right, well, explain this." And showed him a photo of himself in his bedroom the night before, holding a pill and bringing it up to his mouth. And the young man said, "That's a Mike and Ike's candy. I eat them all the time. How did you get a picture of me in my bedroom?" Now, the school, when it issued the laptops, had decided that it would put some anti-theft software on them so that as kids inevitably lost or had their laptops stolen, they would be able to track down the laptops. And one of the things that the anti-theft software let them do was remotely operate the cameras on these laptops without turning on the little green light. And they had inevitably ended up using these not just to find stolen laptops, but, you know, as Chekhov says, when you put a mantle on the gun in Act 1, it has to go off by Act 3. Having built in a facility to spy on their students at home and in all other situations, they started spying on their students. And what came out in the lawsuit was that they'd taken thousands of photos of students, awake and asleep, at home and at school, dressed and undressed, with their family present, and so on. And in the wake of that lawsuit, this practice was reformed. They no longer give students laptops and don't tell them that there's software that on it that allows them to covertly operate the camera. They give them laptops now and tell them that there's software on it that allows them to covertly operate the camera, as do many other schools now too. This turns out to be very effective at terrorizing children. If you tell them that they have to carry a device all the time that has a camera in it that can be turned on without their knowledge to watch them, it's a modern updating. You know, we use the term panopticon figuratively all the time. This is not a figurative analogy to the panopticon. This is literally the point of the panopticon, that if you don't know when you're being watched, you will spend all of your time in fear of being watched. And that's what you get with this. Now, I'm going to skip forward from February 2010 to the end of 2010, November 2010, when members of the Chaos Computer Club, a group of computer activists in Germany, discovered something called the Bundestrojaner, the state Trojan. This was an illegal virus that the government of Bavaria was putting on the computers of people who they felt to be a crime risk. And this virus allowed them, or this piece of malicious software allowed them to, again, remotely operate the camera, read files off the hard drive, and so on. And it hid itself from the owner. All of these programs have to hide themselves from the owner. Nobody wants a program that remotely operates the camera, so you have to hide the program. You have to build up a facility in the computer to hide what the computer is doing from the people who use it. And the Bundestrojaner not only hid itself from the owner, but it also failed to secure itself very well from people who weren't the police. And so you could go into a network like this one, you know, like the wireless network they'll have it here or in a coffee shop, and you could fire up a scanner and look for people who've been infected with the Bundestrojaner. And when you found them, you could take over their computers, and then you could follow their computers around as they moved around. You could do what the police were doing, right? Once you build in the spying facility, the spying facility is there for everyone. So now I'm going to jump forward to the end of the next year, November 2011. A researcher named Trevor Eckhart found himself on the receiving end of a series of legal threats from America's major mobile phone carriers, cellular carriers, because he had discovered a piece of software called Carrier IQ that had been covertly installed on what turned out to be 141 million handsets. And Carrier IQ was not only a piece of software to allow the monitoring of network conditions by carriers, so they could find out where there were areas where people hit dropouts, where it was likely that quality of service would go down, they need to build new towers or service the towers they have, but it also conveyed to this third party the location of everybody who was using this software. And it also gave them the ability to read every keystroke entered into the phone, including passwords, SMSs, and gave them access to the phone's file system where photos could be filmed. Now, Eckhart eventually got clear of these legal threats. When it became clear what had gone on, the carriers were facing so much public disapprobation that they just had to walk away from trying to make a martyr out of Eckhart. They could see that that wasn't going to work for them. But at the time, they seemed pretty serious about intimidating him out of speaking, and it was only because Eckhart felt like he was legally allowed to look inside phones and tell people what he found there that we ended up knowing about Carrier IQ. Now, in the wake of Carrier IQ, lots of phone companies continue to install software that ends up leaking lots of information about their users to third parties, but now they put it in the fine print. In September, so I'm going to jump forward another year to last September, September 2012, when 7 rent-to-own companies, these are companies that will rent you something over a long period of time, and after a certain number of rental payments, you own it. Usually, the rental payments add up to a lot more than you would pay for buying a good up front, but it's a way that people who don't have a lot of ready cash, particularly poor people, can get access to goods that they couldn't afford, cash up front for. 7 rent-to-own companies and a software company called Designerware entered into a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. Designerware made anti-laptop theft software that these companies had installed on the laptops that they sold to their customers across America. And this anti-laptop theft software was, like all the other programs I described, it allowed the covert operation of the sensors on the device. And in their settlement with the FTC, they admitted that they had been covertly recording their customers having sex. They had been covertly recording their children in the nude. They had been covertly intercepting their private medical communications with their doctors and HMOs, their privileged communications with their lawyers, their bank credentials and logins, their financial information, the files on their hard drive, screenshots, and more. And the FTC, which is charged with protecting our interests as consumers of America, they put their foot down. They said, no more of this. You can't install the software anymore unless you put it in the fine print. By buying this laptop, you agree that you agree that we're going to be able to record you having sex without your knowledge.